Hello, and welcome back to Full-Time Dad, Part-Time Reactor, and today we are continuing on with our Blink-182, the Zane Lowe interview. If you're looking for part 1, I will put it in the description box, and this is going to be a 5-part series just because I didn't realize that the interview was going to be so long. Don't get me wrong, the more Blink-182, the better, but we are going to be continuing off where we left off. If you're new to the channel or returning and haven't subscribed yet, please consider doing so, liking, sharing, commenting. You know what to do. We appreciate it, but let's go.
Was it tough at times, you know, watching the fact that Mark and Tom weren't necessarily on speaking terms? Again, I always got this sense that you were in contact with him and you were playing with him and that you were sort of in the middle of this.
Yeah, I always knew that the brotherhood wouldn't ever deteriorate or wouldn't be there. It was just a matter of like finding the right time for it all to happen. And yeah. It's kind of crazy, like on the album, like One More Time.
It is a strange dynamic between the three because Travis has been notorious for being very soft-spoken. I mean, you can even tell in this interview, even though he is talking a good amount, which is surprising. But the dynamic between the three, it's weird to think like behind the scenes how that all worked, where you know they were fighting and not getting along, and if he was like that almost middle child and like trying to like you know piece the three together, or kind of what that dynamic was. Was it always Travis and Mark versus Tom, or you know was it one person trying to get all of them back together? It is very interesting.
It's kind of written about that, is like written about like why does it take these catastrophes like me being in a plane crash or Mark being sick for our band to get back together.
It's an interesting psychological question, because the idea of healing through trauma, it seems so natural, and yet when it happens repetitively, it's like, to your point, why does it have to happen that way? Can we heal without there being some trauma that forces us into a situation and brings us together? Do you know what I mean?
I don't know.
It is also interesting why it had to take 2 incidents for them to get back together. And I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe they did get back together briefly after Travis's plane crash, because of course that happened first before Mark got cancer and it didn't work out. But it seemed like they still weren't in a great place at that time, at least compared to now, where it seems like everything's kumbaya. Hopefully it stays like that.
No, because I didn't know that Blink would ever get back together, or that I would ever share a stage with Tom. And I told management, I told Travis, I told everybody, I'm like, I'm not setting foot on stage again with that dude. Not a chance. I mean, that's the truth, but I mean, I've always thought Tom's one of the best songwriters in the world, and one of my favorite songwriters, but you know, there was a lot of bad blood, and there was a lot of stuff in the press and feelings and all this stuff. And then
I wonder if they are gonna like get into it, and I don't, again, I love Blink-182, but I don't follow people's lives like that. You know, I'm just not into, you know, all the gossip and all that, but I wonder what happened behind the scenes, if it was ever talked about, or if we'll get into it in this interview, where you know he's saying there was bad blood and there was so much animosity, and like he would not step in the same room, they wouldn't step on the same stage together. Like what happened that was so severe that it led to feeling that way against somebody that you would consider your best friend or your brother?
Honestly, like I got sick. Just by random chance, Tom hit me up and was like, hey, check it out, I'm making art with Angels and Airwaves. And it was literally Tom like this, and behind him were 6 women in their underwear and high heels and bras. And he was shooting an Angels and Airwaves music video with these models, and he's like, hey, check it out. And I'm like, haha, that's great, awesome, stoked for you. By the way, I have lymphoma, blah, blah. And Tom snapped into this person and like immediately was like, call me every morning, what's going on? How are you feeling? Let's go. Let's get you through this. You're going to beat this. And I hadn't really heard that.
Yeah.
I mean, I'd heard it from people, and like, you know, oh, you're going to be fine. You're going to be fine, dude. It's going to be okay. It's going to be good. You got this. And people would say things to me like, oh, it's a good thing they got it early. And I'm like, I have no idea if they fucking caught it early. Like, I have stage 4 cancer. What are you talking about?
Yeah.
But Tom was always like, we're going to get you through this. We're going to do this. We're going to.
I don't know much about cancer, thank goodness. I just haven't been around it too much, besides my grandfather, but I was really young when that happened. But I always thought that like stage 4 is like the worst of it. So how did they catch it early on if you're at stage 4, right? Like, if they caught it early, wouldn't it be stage 1? Or maybe I'm completely wrong, but that's how I thought.
All this stuff. And healing through the band, like, once I was clear of the cancer diagnosis and got the all clear, I was still a fucking hollow, just shell, shitty, weak, brain like eaten with the chemotherapy and pain and everything else, just a hollow shell. And then getting back in the studio to make this record was like learning how to fucking play bass again, learning how to, like, the chemotherapy wrecked my vocal cords. I had to go to work with a vocal coach. I had to rebuild my throat. I had, like, all this stuff had to rebuild to get to the point where we could go and walk on stage at Coachella and have one of the biggest shows of our career and have this album, which
that must have been, I have goosebumps just thinking about it. I couldn't even imagine being him, you know, cured of cancer or it's on remission, and learning all of that leading up to an event like Coachella and walking out there as Blink-182 with Tom for the first time in 10 plus years. Like, they must have been bawling their eyes out. I mean, I would be so emotional. I'm getting emotional just thinking about it. I couldn't imagine what they were going through.
Touch Wood is one of, like, the best albums we've ever written.
It's the best album you've ever made, and I say that as a lifelong Enema fan, you know?
The thing is, like, it's all through the healing of this band and this music and this record and us coming back together. And we sat down at the very beginning and we said, the only way that we're going to do Blink-182 again is if it's fucking fun. If we can do it our own way and not have people over our shoulders telling us, you need to do this, you need to do this, you need to do this. For instance, on this record, we're like, we don't want to do a shit ton of press. We want to talk to somebody that we love, that gets the fucking music, and I don't want to answer these questions about what does a fucking 182 mean, and blah, blah, blah. And so, like, to have you here with us, like, that's our whole fucking plan for this record, is to launch it by talking to you, who knows music and is a friend of ours and gets the shit. We're not going to play shows we don't want to play. We're not going to take photos we don't want to take. We're not going to do this stuff. And so, it really, our mission's...
Listen, at this point in their career, when you're as big as they are and have changed music, and you know, you have so many bands that became bands because of Blink-182, like, you should get to do only what you want to do. I mean, it's only right.
Statement with this whole thing was, like, imagine if Blink were the fucking Beastie Boys. Like, that's our call to arms. Would the fucking Beastie Boys do it? Would the Ramones do it?
Yes.
Would fucking any of the bands that would Fugazi do this shit? If we're not down with it and if we don't want to do it, then fuck everybody. We're going to do it our way. And now, touch wood, it feels like the best time in the band in forever. Like, we own it. It's our creative vision. It's us three together. You know, people will come with us on ideas and things like that. And then in the end, it's like, Travis will have an idea. What if we dress up like the Ramones for the video? Or Tom will have this idea, or I'll have something, and it just feels like we finally own our band again.
Fuck, I love
That's
that.
awesome.
Shit, man, friendship is kind of fucking wasted on your 30s, I think. It's at its best in your teens and your 20s.
Well, I
then
think
everyone in their 30s kind of loses their fucking mind a bit, and then you come back together.
Yeah, you know, you kind of figure out who you are at this point, you know, and if you don't know who you are, you're in a lot of trouble in life.
Well, I think, you know, because I'm in my mid-30s. Well, I'd like to say mid-30s. But moving on, I think that, you know, once everybody goes through some things, you find out what's really important and who's really important. And, you know, things that may have happened in the past that were big at the time or, you know, impactful, maybe weren't so big in the grand scheme of things. And I think it just takes a little bit of time to figure that out, because there's a lot of people my age, maybe a little older, maybe a little younger, that are kind of going through the same things. You know, you find out that less is more when it comes to friends and things of that nature. So yeah, really important.
I think. Yeah, but we've been through a lot, you know, and I think, like, this is the best form of us. I mean, even our shows, like, even our old songs we're playing sound new, because I think we're playing them with this ferocity and just playing it with more skill and it just, I don't know, it's weird. It makes them really feel timeless to me.
Coachella was out of control. I mean, I've seen the band. Part of the charm was always watching you go on stage and figure it out. That was part of that. It felt like an investment, actually, from a fan point of view, because sometimes I feel like we were singing the songs while you guys are figuring out and remembering the words, but it's like...
One of the best things about Blink-182, besides, you know, the three of them, their personalities, the music, lyrics, all that good stuff, is the fact that they joke around so much on stage. It's such an experience. I was lucky to be able to see, it was Green Day, Blink-182, I think it was Green Day. It was definitely Blink-182 and the Hush Sound at MSG back when I was a teenager. And I just remember leaving the concert, of course, loving every minute of it, but my cheeks and my face and my stomach hurt so much from laughing at them. They're so funny on stage, and that is one of the great things about Blink-182. It's like you're getting two shows in one, like a comedy stand-up and, you know, this epic band performance. So I think that's one of the reasons why Blink-182 is so popular and so many people enjoy them.
This time, to your point, watching you play these songs, it's like, holy shit. Like, you are really firing on all cylinders now, everybody playing.
Thank you.
Appreciate that. I feel we really are, you know, like when we first started, I mean, a lot of people don't know, we were in a van playing with punk rock, like rad punk bands and clubs for like 7-8 years or something.
Yeah.
People lighting drumsticks on fire in their ass, naked, this, that, mosh pits everywhere, mohawks. There was a shit ton of like riots at our shows. All those shows we used to play in Florida and stuff. Then you become kind of bigger and you don't really realize you're getting bigger and you don't even really feel like you should be there, maybe, at least for me. Like, I don't know, we deserve this. So you just kind of be yourself.
Because you feel like you could go home. I always wondered about that. When you became Blink, the Enema, and it became arenas and touring with Green Day and crazy shit, you know, MTV, TRL, mad times, you know, the start of what I would consider to be kind of popular culture and music, very much coming together in a very sort of youth culture way. Could you go home to the punk clubs at that time as much as you felt like you're out of place in the other places?
I think, I mean, my point with what you're saying is, like, as we were getting bigger, we were like, let's just continue to be us. Because when you're in the punk rock clubs and anything goes. It would be funny if we didn't know the fucking song and we would stop and just be like, whose fault was that? And then do that song 2 more times, you know, which we still kind of do to this day. But I think like now, like we really have this professional lens that we've added, you know, over the years. And it's really cool. It's really challenging to try to be the best you can be, but not really use that youthful spirit. So I think we have one foot still where we came from, like you said, but we kind of really have this new take on ourselves where we came back this time. We just really wanted to be the best version of ourselves, but that was a lot of stuff. That's like not only how you play the songs or the next songs you write, it's really how you perform the songs, the production you bring, and how you respect each other's creative visions and how you come together and let everyone feel like they can be themselves.
I love that we walk on stage in an arena and it feels to me like a club show. It could go wrong, we could fuck up, we can make a joke about it. We have the best production designers and crew in the business designing the most incredible show that looks crazy.
One of my favorite albums is the Tom, Mark, and Travis show. Again, because of like what they're talking about. Like there's so many instances, and they knew that was going to be a live album that gets released. There were so many instances in that album where, you know, they're messing up or they're joking around, or somebody's got to pee, this and that. Like, it's so like rough around the edges, but it works so good because they are just themselves, and like they don't care if they mess up. Nobody's going to care, right? They're there to see them react and just listen to them. So
crazy, has fire, lasers, cryo, pyro, stuff moving, giant figures, and it all feels fun and joyous and awesome, and it feels like it could fall off the rails at any second, and that's how I feel too. Like, I love that that's what a Blink show feels like. It feels like a giant party. Everyone come over, we're gonna throw up a PA, we're gonna have some cool lights, and we're gonna have some fun.
That's what the music always felt like, and it still feels like to this day. I mean, I really want to get into this album, I want to talk about the journey to it, but I kind of feel like we have to make good on this shit table tennis game and actually go ping pong game and have a little walk around
it. A real tennis court and see how that goes.
How long have you been in this space for?
About 2 years now.
So was a lot of the record recorded here?
The majority of it, yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
I didn't realize that.
I mean, look at these guys. Can you fucking believe it? I mean, how old are you there? I can't even remember.
I'm probably 12.
You look about you don't look anything like you, though. It's crazy.
You know, it is. I do feel like I recognize those guys. You know what I do notice is our tattoos are a bit younger. So like the colors are better.
There's a lot missing.
Yeah, it's fading.
But that was a wild ride. You know, when we made that record, I remember I went in and sat with the president of the label. We had no idea if the band was gonna be like irrelevant that year or not. You don't know. We're literally just still in clubs and shit. And the president goes, 3 things are gonna happen in the next 6 months. You're gonna be more famous than you ever thought you could be. You're gonna make more money than you ever thought you could be, and you're gonna be in arenas by fall.
This is the most record industry meeting I've ever heard in my life.
No,
get off the Corinthian leather and get the fuck out of my office.
So he says this, I am not.
Could you imagine somebody saying that to you? Like, oh, just to have that feeling of all that success in such a short period. Well, I guess not short period, because like they said, they were playing in clubs and this and that for 7 or 8 years. But once it finally happens and you have somebody telling you that you're going to have that much success in 6, 8, 12 months, absolutely wild.
Not joking, he says this, and I literally laughed out loud and spit my drink. I swear to you, I laughed. It was an audible laugh. I thought the guy was so high, and we were in arenas that fall. And I do remember at the last show at our first arena tour, I walked out after soundcheck or something. It's an empty arena on stage, and I remember I just did this little prayer. I was just like really grateful that I had one chance in my life to play a show like that, or a series of shows like that.
Yeah.
Because I did not think that was going to happen again. I thought we barely squeezed into there with the little bit of hype we had that year, but things just kept going. It's just wild.
I think back to that album, and I think back to a song like Adam's Song, and I think that was kind of weirdly, in a very, very real way, an anchor moment for all of us and you, because we knew we had fun listening to your music, and we knew that the jokes were funny and you were great, an incredible band, but that was when it was like, let's see where this goes.
That was a hard song, you know. That was.
Yeah, I feel like that is a pivotal moment for a lot of people, because like he said, everybody knew that they could have fun, joke around, this and that. But then they put in life experiences, depression, suicide into that song, and people were like, wow, they are really talented. They can do a lot more than just what's on the surface. So I think that really opened their band up.
It's a song that I wrote when I was really depressed, and that's a song that's resonated with me for the rest of my life, and one that I hope to take with me forever. But yeah, I was nervous to show that song to Travis and Tom when I first wrote it, and I thought it was maybe too off kilter with the rest of the record, because the rest of the record is really anthemic and youthful and go out and let's have a great time, and here's a song about feeling really down, and they loved it. They took that idea and made it the song that it is.
I think too, like what you need to understand about Blink-182 is that we didn't come out of like joyous homes. We didn't come out of just this crazy, everything's happy. We came from a lot of heartbreak, broken families, and a lot of fist fights and domestic violence and crazy.
When he says that line right there, I've heard this line because I think it was on a YouTube short or something, but I think immediately of the song Stay Together for the Kids, which is probably one of my favorite Blink-182 songs. Maybe not my favorite, but like top 10, 15 for sure. But I definitely think of that song as soon as he says that.
Crazy shit. And so Blink was always a way to force happiness, play as fast as you can, have as much edge as you can, and you just attack. You attack and force the happiness in the room. And it was angst. It was pure angst. And I think that the fans that really understand Blink understood that. It's not, we're just writing catchy songs. We were trying to fix or make up for a troubled youth, and but that's what great rock, that's what great punk rock does. It's a vehicle for emotion, and that's the emotion we were trying to force upon ourselves and everyone around us.
And it was just this joyous ride through the first 3 albums, and then you make album number 4, and then I remember hearing about Boxcar Racer and going, oh yeah, of course, that's what people do. They go and they form other bands and have fun, do other shit, and come back around. But as the years progressed, the next few years, it felt like that did plant some like seeds of discontent within the band. Is that kind of when things started to feel uncomfortable?
I don't know if it was that or if it was before that and that just manifested it more, or what it was. It definitely like drove feelings in the band, and we've gone over that, and Tom and I argued about it and screamed at one another and broken up and gotten back together and come to a good place with it all. I think that was a catalyst, but not the spark.
Yeah, I think that's true. I think what happened potentially is like, you know, the band was so busy for so many years, and you have to keep going and touring 10 months out of the year, and everyone's starting families, and then your priorities aren't necessarily to each other anymore because you have a wife and you have kids.
Well, especially coming from a divorce situation. I mean, you never want to break that cycle more than when you start your own family.
And shit, and that cycle fucking keeps going for us too, you know, so it's like, it's hard, and at the time too, I'm trying to figure out ways just to be happy. But you also want to challenge yourself artistically, but you're not really thinking of the ramifications. You're not really thinking about how other people feel. You're not mature enough to handle the situation, potentially for myself. And
there are redundant feelings when you look back on them. It's crazy. They're so real at the moment. In the moment, it just...
I like how he just owned that, like, potentially for myself, because he identified that he wasn't mature at the time, and looking back on the situation, you know, thinking he could have handled it totally different.
Creates this reaction. It's almost visceral, you know, and you look back on it and you're like, what the fuck?
It was 22 years ago. It's like, you know, it's a long time.
It's a long time.
You're young and you have ego involved with yourself, and you just got selfishness that you're trying to find to do something that you're just, you know, for me, like I always loved the art of it. I like the challenge. And honestly too, I remember back at the time, these guys are such great musicians. I remember thinking like, I don't know what I could do if I didn't have that support system right away.
You didn't feel like you felt like you were like not pulling your weight to some degree?
It's not that. It's not that I feel like I'm pulling my weight. It's just kind of like, I was curious if I could explore other sides of punk rock that, you know, without like, you know, the backstop with these guys. Even though I did end up doing that with Travis for sure, but my intention.
I get what he's saying. He wanted to challenge himself to see if he could do something without, you know, the two people that have been around him basically his whole life. So I totally understand that, and I'm sure they're, you know, the ideas that they had for music, you know, weren't the same as they originally were. You know, one person wants to do one thing, somebody else wants to do something else. So I totally understand that.
Really was just discovery, because I don't know if it was going to be big or not. I just wanted to try something. Now I know it's like Blink can do any kind of music. Like we literally have big, heavy kind of boxcar-y songs, but we also have slow Adam song type songs, and we have songs that we feel were influenced by like the Police or something. Maybe no one else would hear it, but we understand where we get our influences from. And so we really don't have boundaries in this band. We've done a lot of different styles of music. We can put out a full new wave song if we wanted to, and I don't think anyone's going to think that's weird.
What's about to come out?
You know, that's true. There are a couple of those things on there. Yeah.
And it's a fucking banger, by the way. Seriously.
But like, you know, back in the day, you don't know. And you get caught up in who you think you are, who you're supposed to be. There's also, too, when we were getting a lot of the fame back then, we had a lot of people that were revolting against it, because that's just kind of how the punk rock scene worked back then.
That's what I was kind of asking about before.
So you get a little bit
how the reaction was.
You can act like you don't care, but you care. Then you start to guess yourself a little bit. I mean, it was so funny. I mean, we played a show in Europe one time, and there was these pissed off punk rock kids that were like throwing bottles and shit.
Yeah.
Because we did the boy band video where we made fun of the boy bands, but the label took stills from that video and used them as posters, and we looked like a boy band. And so when we did the next album, Take Off Your Pants and Jacket, we're wearing black, we're wearing all black, we're no more color. You know, because then you're like, but there was nothing wrong with what we were doing, but you're young and you're just trying to correct and overcorrecting because you're going 100 miles an hour down the highway. But fuck, I mean, this is like you're watching kids grow up and learn how to stay friends, learning how to be the brothers they are, learning how to become better musicians, better artists, and you see a progression. There's a lot of bands that get together on their first record, they're fucking great, and on their last record they're great, but you don't really see the growth because it's all kind of great.
This has been the ride. Like one of the most unexpected, emotional, incredible roller coaster rides of any band in my lifetime that I've seen go through it. The record shouldn't be kicking the door down like that at this point.
All right, so we are going to stop right there for part 2. I am thoroughly enjoying this interview. I love that they did this because there was so many questions around Blink-182, you know, from breaking up to getting back together, breaking up, getting back together, and I feel like this is kind of like airing a lot of that out. So yeah, it's great to hear from all three of them. Everybody's kind of telling their own side of the story, and I just love this. I hope you are enjoying it as well. Hit the like button, subscribe if you haven't already. Hopefully we'll see you right back here in the next video. Catch you later.